Hello everyone, and welcome to a very silly Elden Ring video, where I am attempting to throw people off this balance beam, and I want them to try and throw me off this balance beam. However, I'm doing this with randoms, so I have no idea whether or not they're going to be playing along. Um, but yeah, so I hope you enjoy all of the silliness that is this video. Um, GG first random red. I appreciate Canon of Haima. Now, this clip here is just to show that even with soft cotton, this fall is lethal. So if they knock me off, there is nothing that I can do to try and save myself and cheese my way out of this. So it is not my intent to be a healing little goblin on this, but the point is I want them to knock me off rather than, and I'm going to be trying to knock them off. And sometimes you get some very nice randoms like this frog that they understand the assignment, or at least they understand that we're gonna fight here on this beam. And I love the explodey physic and also stamp sweep. Granted, I'm not using the explodey physic because it's kind of a one and done, but it's still really cool to see. And Giant's Flame Take Thee is really nice for trying to knock people off, and I just get blasted by Wrath of Gold. GG Frog Rando, you understood the assignment. And now here we have the first of two recurring invaders in this video. This one is a little bit hesitant to get on the beam, and this sometimes happens with randos. I am sharing this because I think it's some funny fights. I think by the end of our 3 rounds, this invader is probably a little bit irritated with me trying to be silly, but sometimes this happens when you're doing funny fights. But the big thing is commit to the bit. Stay trying to be silly and try and get people to play along with whatever gimmick you're trying to do, because that way you'll be having the most fun and hopefully they'll be having the most fun too. Yeah, and so this build is actually no, this one's not my 94 strength build. This one is an 88 strength build with plus 18 regular smithing weapons and 7 Songbird. Now here we are for round 2. As you can see, this guy is not as happy because he's immediately going into attacks. When I'm just trying to wait. And as you can see, I'm not rune arced, so that way I'm not gaining extra levels from Godric's Great Rune or extra health or anything, to try and keep it as fair as possible. I do have extra heals going into the start. However, if I could have less depending on how many invaders have come in beforehand. But GG. But as you can see, Stamp Sweep and Waves of Darkness are both very nice, and I just love Great Axes. So we are, and as you can see, they're getting progressively more aggressive out of the gate, and yeah, like I said, they probably don't know. Like, I'm trying to not be a Liurnia Lightning Gobbo sitting at Dual Prawn Shack, trying to take advantage of the lake for lightning damage and healing 2 feet from a grace. I'm trying to get them to come out onto the beam, try and knock me off, have a good time as a gimmick fight. And although I do have the advantage of I'm more prepared with things to try and knock them off with. I think this is a much more fair setup, especially because I'm committed to the bit and not changing what I'm using to be drastically more mean PvP wise, and I'm always trying to encourage people to get onto the beam. Now here I'm goofing a little bit, and I almost get Carrion Slicer to death because it's still quite powerful. However, thankfully, I'm able to get away, and we can continue trying to knock each other off of the ledge. And yeah, so effectively, if an invader kills me in this, I would be giving them the win. But here he stands a little bit too close, and Troll's Roar, which is another great tool for throwing people off of ledges, is used. And GG. Thank you for playing along. I'm sorry if it's very confusing in a game where there's no speech. And then sometimes when you're doing stuff like this, you run into friends. So if you don't already know TerpyOG, I'll link their social media stuff in the description. He was streaming at the time. I was not trying to snipe, but sometimes you just run into friends and you just have a very good time. And he hosts and commentates weekly right now the legendary Legend League, which basically is about a dozen players, I think, right now on both across a dozen players on each PC and PlayStation, or trying to throw each other off of ledges in various locations. And this is his Crucible Knight cosplay, where he's using a bunch of quality faith weapons. And Blade of Calling is actually it's a better choice than the Black Knife, because the Ash of War has a much stronger knockback, and rejection is just very useful because if I'm caught, I am immediately thrown off. Thankfully, the first part of Stamp Sweep allows me to poise tank the rejection, and yeah, so now he has an Endure Stick, which is a valid part of any cosplay when you're trying to play Super Smash Brothers, so pay no mind to that. And there I slip off, but I think if you I would have gotten tapped with the R1 and lost anyway. So GG Terpy, thank you so much for hosting such silly stuff. And yeah, if you haven't already, go check out his channel, and hopefully we'll see you at the Legend League. And now here is another person who initially thought I might be trying to be a little bit more similar in the vein of a Liurnia goblin. However, because of committing to the bit, they're going to re-invade and have a very nice time. But yeah, Troll's Roar is great, Hyper Armor is great, and these ledges are pretty narrow. So, and I also don't blame them for coming in with strong setups, because thankfully I've had good fortune in a lot of my invasions, but from what I've heard, things are pretty rough right now before the DLC. A lot of ganks and things of just like not good invasions, so I don't blame anyone for going in with strong stuff and being wary that someone in this type of scenario is trying to be more mean than myself, trying to have a nice little gimmick fight here. Because one thing that is just very easy to do in vanilla and pretty obvious would be like if you had the hand ballista or jar cannon, you could in theory use those to just try and blast people off as they're getting close to you. However, I am sticking with the wave, and we are going for it. So again, Endure, Power Stance, Straight Swords is very strong dueling setup, and again, they at this point they don't perfectly understand that I'm trying to play Super Smash Brothers and just trying to knock them off and want them to knock me off for fun. And Endure is also quite strong at trying to stay on the ledge. So I again don't blame them. GG for getting me knocked off. And then a little bit later, if you can see their name in a little bit, they have changed their character name over to match mine, being Balance Beam. So we are now both in it to win it on Super Smash Brothers on trying to knock each other off, because yeah. So if don't worry, stay committed. If you run into someone who doesn't immediately understand, stay committed to the bit. And you will have a good time. As you can see, one of the things that I try and do is I want to like give, oh yeah, the endure stamp off. That is always really funny, where it's just like, all right, who's going to stop first? Um, yeah, and GG. These are narrow beams, so it's really tight to try and roll around the rejection. So here we are for round 5, I think. Yeah, we're having a great time. Um, I don't know. I'm just having a good time with all these, so I don't forget exactly where I was going with. Other than if you're trying to host something like this, just keep having a good time and don't let anybody get you down, and you'll make friends with it. Oh yeah, Iron Jar is ridiculously strong. However, a different friend and I were testing it, and I know that I can push someone with Iron Jar Aromatic just far enough to get them off of this ledge in particular. So if there were wider ledges, that would have been really, really tough to deal with. However, I actually like science tested that out. So, again, GG, this is just really fun, goofy stuff. And also, as you can see, they're coming in testing out all sorts of different stuff rather than sticking with the more meta weapons. So the two of us are having a great time. And here, I think they're going for the Viper Bite to see whether or not I can go for a bolus. And if I try and eat a bolus, they would be able to use the Ash of War on their main hand weapon, which is Earthshaker, to try and knock me off. Now here, I'm being a little bit cheeky trying to use Sleep. However, I'm using St. Trina's Torch, which is not nearly as powerful as Sleep Pots or St. Trina's Sword. So my plan is, if I can put them to sleep and I get my swaps correct, I can soft swap over to my incantation tool and then use rejection to knock them off. And there, I think they ran out of FP for the Earthshaker. But there, I get hit and home run swung off. GG, and they follow me down. So that was a very, very good time, and of the fight of Balance Beam versus Balance Beam. And like I said, not everyone gets it, but you can still have fun with it. This person is using Knight Rider Glaive and is just going ham. Thankfully I was over that, otherwise I probably would have just like immediately force dropped. However, rolls are scary, and someone put butter all over these ledges. So GG, thank you for participating. Warcry Knight Rider Glaive is pretty nice. But yeah, apparently this is what I do in Elden Ring. I am just very, very goofy and am trying to get people to throw me off of ledges, and it is quite hilarious. Now this guy, he is taking a minute to find the beam, but he is being a good sport about it when he gets here, which is always appreciated. I might with randoms, it's always difficult to see whether or not you can get them to play along, but when you do, it is great. Now, this guy's favorite button in the world is L2. L2 is a really good button. I don't blame him. I like using L2 too as well. Preferably, I like Stamp Sweep a little bit more, but yeah. And here, usually in duels, you don't heal, but because it's a gimmick fight, like I'm being like, yeah, heal up. We're fighting on a beam. So using jumps and other stuff, you can try and indicate that you're you want people to heal up. And now this person, they are cautious, but they understand the assignment. They know that I'm waving, I'm doing my best to be like, yeah, we're gonna have a fight in an interesting location. Which, if you're just like Tonner's tonguing through an area, like play the level or do something like this so you can have a spot. So like, I don't, again, don't blame them for being cautious, but they understand the assignment, and they're using Wing of Estelle, and I think they're mostly going for just a duel on the beam, but still, like, this is they've got a cool build. They've got, I think they haven't used it yet, but they've got Gavel of Haima, they've got like Nebula, Carrion Piercer. They've got a pretty sick Spellblade setup. And as yeah, there's Gavel. Gavel has really good hyper armor. Although it doesn't knock back very far, it does knock down well. And I think I would, if I didn't fall off, that Gavel would have caught me. So GG, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. See ya.